Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. From websites and online stores, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence. One of the unique features of Squarespace is that you can have password-protected pages, and I decided I want to use this for my patrons so that they can see all of my sketches in one page as opposed to having to navigate them haphazardly on the Patreon website. And another thing that I really love is being able to edit and adjust my images directly on the Squarespace platform as opposed to having to do it separately. This makes the process so much more streamlined, and that way I can create this new page much easier and more efficiently. And so I feel like I've still only scratched the surface of what Squarespace can offer, but I am looking forward to diving in more and taking advantage of all the different unique features it has. And so if you are interested in your own website, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/I'mAWonder for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Hello friends, I hope that you've been well. Before we begin, I just wanted to quickly mention that my shop is going to be closing October 4th, so you have less than a week left to grab something. Link is going to be in the description. In today's video, I'll be working on the artwork for the September postcard reward for my Patreon page. At the end of each month, I release a mood board surrounding a theme that I've chosen for the following month. And so for September, I decided to go with a snake fashion theme. And if you are interested in receiving this gal in the mail, you have until September 30th to sign up for the print and sticker reward tier. Next month's theme will be pastel witches, which I am really looking forward to painting. So of course, the link to my Patreon page will also be linked in the description. And so now about today's actual video. For those of you who are not familiar with this video series, basically I answer some of your questions that are received on Instagram and on the YouTube community tab while I show real-time footage of the drawing and painting process. Of course, the footage that you just watched was a sped up digital video of me working on the sketch on Procreate on my iPad, but moving forward, everything that you see here, while has been edited down to a degree for a more concise viewing, it is all going to be in real time. And the first third of questions are going to be art and career related. In the middle, we've got personal and life questions. And lastly, I answer all the fun pop culture questions at the end. So without further ado, let's get into these questions. How do you organize art notes / illustration ideas / references, etc.? I'm not super organized or methodical, but I do have a few broad folders on my Pinterest page listed as faces, fashion, environments, and screen caps, which I think are pretty self-explanatory. And then similarly on Instagram, I have saved folders for art inspo, fashion inspo, and art resources. The resources folder contains a number of things such as artists that might have shared posts about drawing or content creation, maybe some career advice, or even resources like where they get fonts from, etc. And then for things like drawing prompt lists, I sometimes will write it down physically in a notebook, or I'll use a Google Docs. What inspires you to create new work? Well, lucky for you, October is just around the corner, so there are tons of art challenge prompt lists floating around the internet for endless sources of inspiration. This year, I created my own drawing prompt list titled Mythical Pinups, which is essentially going to be a bunch of pinup monster girls. And, if you decide to join, do use the hashtag so that I and everyone else can see them. And I specifically titled it Mythical Pinups in case, you decided you don't want to exclusively draw girls. It is open to whatever interpretation you want. Do you exclusively draw from imagination? Do you use references to study from, for whole pieces of art, or for a specific part of an artwork? I do not exclusively draw from imagination. I definitely use references to study from. I think that's really important. And I do also use references for specific parts of an artwork that I think is really important to do if there is an element of an illustration that you're not familiar with. And I do think that there is an important distinction to be made when using references for full illustrations. So, for example, a few years ago, I created this piece that I titled Tokyo Love, which features Michiru and Haruka from Sailor Moon. I had the idea of them driving in a car at night through a neon lit cityscape. And from there, I was like, well, I don't know how to draw cars. Even though I knew the car wasn't going to be a huge feature in this illustration, I did need to look up references of the hood of a car from a front-facing view. And while, in my brain, I generally think I know what a city looks like, in order to illustrate it in the best way that I can, I looked up various images of downtown Tokyo. And then from there, I also looked up images of neon signs. And this is how I think reference images should be used, is by compiling several different images as guidance to enable your creative vision. It should be aiding you, and you should be the one actually doing all of the creative decision making, as opposed to finding a photographer's photo and then just replicating it exactly as you see it and calling it your artwork. Like, yes, you made it, that physical painting, but the creative vision was the photographer's if it's being copied one-to-one. That I think is okay when it's for studying purposes, but in the sense of a piece that is uniquely yours, there is like a fine line between those. At what point do you decide a piece is done and not overwork it? Unfortunately, I don't have a foolproof way of knowing when not to overwork a piece. To be honest, most of the time I wrap up an illustration because I'm impatient, or I'm bored/tired of looking at it, or lastly, because I have poor time management and I need to meet a deadline. How do you balance working with so many mediums and not feeling overwhelmed or forced to only master one? Similarly to what I just mentioned, I get bored pretty easily. So if I've only been using one medium for a while, I find I get kind of restless and just lose my sense of inspiration from it. I just find it so much more engaging to be able to switch around from various mediums. Sure, maybe it stunts my growth in becoming an expert in one given medium, but I don't think forcing myself to stick to one would be serving me creatively either. So I think you just have to kind of go with your own gut. How do you choose your colors? Are they simply your favorite colors, or do you use a color wheel or other color picking book/app to choose the ones you like best? I don't have a color picking book or app. I do technically own a color wheel, but I very rarely use it. I honestly don't think colors are my strong suit, and I approach it kind of differently every time. But as an example, my thought process for the piece I'm working on today, I knew I wanted to feature a dark emerald green, which I think, made sense for a snake theme. And then I knew her skin tone was going to be an orangey peachy tone. And then from there, I just sort of branch the rest of the colors. And typically I try to aim for a limited color palette because that typically yields a much more harmonious piece. But I don't think that really ended up happening today, but that's usually my mindset. So originally, which you'll see later in the video, I use orange and red for the outer background, in which the same orange I use for the skin, and then red because it's the complementary color to green. So that was my mindset. However, I didn't end up liking it, so I cover it up with red and like a dark gray purple. No real rational explanation for the purple, I just wanted it to be darker. And I guess that's another thing to keep in mind when you're choosing your colors is how it will serve the vibe you want the piece to have. What's the feeling you want? And I wanted this piece to have like an edge to it. And so that's why I ended up darkening the background. So yeah, overall, I think my color choices are pretty intuitive with like a touch of color theory knowledge. Also, P.S. I apologize if I sound weird or like labored. I'm actually kind of sick right now, but I really needed to get this video done, so here we are. But anyway, is there a medium you enjoy but don't use as often as you'd like? There isn't a medium per se, but I do sometimes miss painting on larger wood panels. I don't really do it because I don't have the time or space for it. And, because they're larger and take more time, meaning they would need to be priced higher. They're also more difficult to sell, not excluding also the fact that shipping them would be more complicated. And then because they don't sell, I have to store them, which takes up a lot of space. And so it's kind of unfortunate because I do think that there is something really fun about painting larger because you can execute details a little easier and it looks more impressive and impactful when it's on a bigger scale. What's your favorite thing about being an artist? I think having a tangible result, which I guess relates a little bit more to being a traditional artist, but there is something so rewarding and satisfying to be able to hold and look at the thing that you've made with, your own two hands. And that's why I've always preferred traditional art over digital. There's just something so magical about the brush to paper and mixing your own colors and stuff. How would you describe your art to someone who has never seen it before? I would describe it as being made by a millennial who is obsessed with fashion, anime, nostalgia, and pop culture. I feel like I'm failing with watercolor illustration. How do I figure out what I need to do to improve? This is a tricky question to answer because what you consider failure in your use of watercolor can mean a lot of things, and it's also pretty subjective. So my first troubleshooting advice would be to use decent watercolor paper if you aren't already. I think that's really important. And then determine what kind of look you're hoping to achieve with watercolors. Do you want it to be really loose and airy? Are you looking for it to be bold and saturated? Are you doing abstract? Are you doing something highly realistic, etc.? And then from there, I would say to look at artists who are working with watercolors in a way that you're hoping to aim for and study their work. If they have YouTube, that's even better. That isn't to say that you should be copying their style, but rather you should try and learn from their watercolor technique. But ultimately, experimentation, practice, and experience will be the main way to navigate and improve with any medium. How has your art affected your mental health and vice versa? This is a really interesting question, and it's something that I've been grappling with a lot lately. I am a very limited person, and what I mean by that is all of my life, I've never really been good at anything other than art. And so art was my one skill. It was my one source of pride. And so when I made art and I was happy with it, it made me feel really good. However, as I've gotten older and now that making art is my career, it has become much more complicated. We, of course, are our own worst critics. And so when I'm unhappy with something that I've made, which is often, I feel like a failure. And now that it's also compounded with the fear that my inadequacy will reflect in how my audience views my art, which leads to lack of social media engagement, which ultimately leads to a declining income because if they're not engaging with my post on social media, that means they won't be joining my Patreon page, or they won't know that my shop is open, or I won't see YouTube revenue, etc., etc. And thus, this vicious domino effect really makes it difficult to separate my artwork from my self-worth as a person, because all of my life I felt that being good at art was what gave me value. And when you grow up in an environment that told you to not choose an art career because it's not financially stable, but you double down and do it anyways, and then when you achieve that financial stability, you feel like you're on top of the world. You feel so validated and justified in your decision. But then when you realize that it can be kind of fragile, and that financial stability can flip, it's kind of terrifying. I realize maybe I was very honest just now, but it's true, and that's just something that I've been kind of dealing with a lot lately, and I figure I might as well mention it because I think that I'm sure a lot of you can relate. How do you deal with changes in your art style or when trying a new medium? Embrace it, man. I probably sound like a broken record, but I really don't see anything wrong with fluctuations in one's art style. I heard someone compare art style to a person's handwriting, which I think is a really great comparison, because there is always going to be something uniquely you about your art style or your handwriting, no matter the medium or the tool. And honestly, it's probably not that noticeable to other people as it is to you. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to rebuild their YouTube art channel? Honestly, I wish I could provide useful YouTube channel tips, but I actually don't have any because my YouTube channel has actually been suffering and been on the decline all year. So best of luck to the both of us. Advice you give to someone beginning high school who wants to get involved with art. Take any creative art class that is available to you or any art opportunity. I was very fortunate to have gone to a high school that offered a wide variety. I took drama, visual arts, photography, cosmetology, fashion, and communications technology. Even though I did not intend to pursue photography or fashion as a career, those skills are very much transferable. And now that I think about it, I also had volunteered to do hair and makeup for like the school musical, and I think I'd also helped with like the props, like painting the props. Any given opportunity that comes, like take it. But beyond that, I also spent a lot of time, like during my free time, drawing. And I think that was probably what elevated my growth the most. I know that not every high school offers all of these kind of creative opportunities, but thankfully we now live in an age where the internet has a million free resources. So I think that if unfortunately your high school doesn't really have a lot of opportunities for you, there's so many things online that you can access. And yeah, like I said, I had spent so much of my free time making art. So there's definitely an opportunity there for you. Any tips on getting started with conventions? Start small. Getting merchandise made is a large cost upfront, and if you're new and unsure of what will sell, it's best to try and do limited quantities and offer a handful of products that you're able to afford. That way you don't drop hundreds of dollars and then realize that people aren't interested in buying it, and then you're stuck with all of this stock. So when I first started, I had gotten prints made just super cheap at a local print shop, and paper stickers, which I got at the same place. Basically, I made the stickers collaged onto a letter-sized file, printed it onto sticker paper, and I would hand cut them myself. I did this for years because that was the most affordable choice, and originally, I didn't think that I would comfortably be able to sell, $50 or whatever the minimum would be to order from an actual sticker shop. And then, of course, along the way, as I gained more experience and a more steady income, I was able to invest in more types of products and be able to outsource and not have to hand cut my stickers. But other than that, also, don't get caught up in all of the kind of fancy, kind of extra stuff that you see other people doing right away, like investing in like a banner and custom, display and stuff like that. Just start with what is accessible to you and what you can afford, and just like work your way up from there. But I do think actually business cards is really important because you want people to be able to find you later. What was your favorite thing about doing con/artist alleys again? Interacting with people in person. Like, it's so nice to be able to chat with people face to face who are purchasing your work and be able to see their reaction to your work, like firsthand. Plus, as an added bonus, this was the first year I was doing conventions after having my YouTube channel. So it was really, really heartwarming to be able to have some of you who watch my YouTube channel come and chat with me, and I was just showered with so much love, and I really appreciated it. It made me feel so happy, and it just sort of ignited this like motivation to continue doing what I'm doing. And whenever I feel down or unmotivated, I really cherish those like really, really sweet interactions that I've had with people. Is it weird to go to a Comic-Con solo? There's one coming up near me and I want to go, but I don't have anyone to go with. Not at all. I know that maybe it can seem intimidating, but don't let it stop you just because no one else can go with you. I've definitely seen people shopping around on their own before, and the beauty of conventions is that it's a very specific environment. Everyone is there for similar reasons, aka to indulge in fandom culture. So I find that people are sort of disposition to be friendly and open automatically, in my opinion. At least that's kind of how most of the interactions that I've had and the vibe that I've gotten when I'm at conventions. So I guess if you are worried about dealing with crowds of people, if that sort of worries you, definitely attend early on in the day on a Friday or a Sunday. Those are usually the times when it's a little quieter. Any advice for a poor artist? Make the best of what you got. I've operated that way for a very long time, and I think it has made me a better artist and also much more resourceful. When I was 11 or 12, I was making tons of drawings with HB math pencils on lined paper because that's what we had lying around the house. And then for birthdays, I would ask for art supplies. And then in high school, I got a part-time job and I was able to buy my first set of Premier colored pencils and then also save money to go to college. And then fast forward to when I first started my YouTube channel, I filmed everything on my phone because that's what I had. Using art, like expensive art supplies, does not automatically make you a better artist. But if you put in the work, you can gradually earn to afford more things. Did you have support when you decided to dedicate yourself to being a full-time artist? No, I did not. It took me a long time to make the decision because I didn't have financial help. I knew that I was entirely on my own, and if it didn't work out, it would be my own fault. So I saved and waited until I came to a place where I felt like I could consider my income stable and have continued to hustle since then in hopes it stays that way. But I don't want to discredit the fact that my friends have definitely been my cheerleaders along this entire journey. I've had friends buy my merch. I've had friends tell me they watch my YouTube videos and have provided many lovely, nice words of encouragement. And so in that way, I have definitely been, emotionally supported, and I am really, really appreciative of them for that. If Momo was a real person, what type of relationship would y'all have? I love her. This question is so cute. Thank you. So for context, Momo is this girl gang character that I've created. And since she's an Aries, when I think about the other Aries people in my life, I think that she would be someone who helps keep me motivated to pursue my goals and ambitions. Because Aries energy, they're kind of, firecrackers and goal setters, and they are very driven. So I think that personality would kind of instill that sort of fire in me too. What was your least favorite subject in school? So I think it kind of varies because I had different teachers for different subjects in each year. So my feelings on the subject would change depending on the teacher. Like typically I don't like math, but one year in high school, I had a really fun math teacher, so I didn't hate it. Or typically I remembered in elementary school, I hated PE, like gym. But in high school, I had the option of taking an all-female PE class, which made it so much more bearable. So yeah, I've realized that the thing that I hated the most about school in general was writing essays and doing research for said essays. And so you might think, oh, wouldn't that mean like history or English would be your least favorite? Which is true. Those are probably the classes that required the most essays and research. But I do remember like with English, I enjoyed some of the books and I didn't mind Shakespeare. So yeah, instead of a least favorite subject, I would say my least favorite task was essays. And I hope I never have to write an essay ever again. Your go-to coffee shop / order. I don't really have a go-to shop, but in the summer, I definitely love me a Vietnamese iced coffee or some kind of sweet iced coffee. And then in the warmer weather, maybe a latte or a cappuccino. What is your go-to bubble tea order? I've definitely been on a brown sugar boba kick for a while, but I also have been really into taro as well. If you could be an animal for 24 hours, what animal would you be? Maybe an octopus? I was trying to think of something that would allow me to experience something so far removed from what I have experienced in my life. I think, like being able to explore the depths of the sea or the ocean would be such a fascinating experience. But also being able to have 8 tentacles and the ability to camouflage and just something that's so different from the life that I would ever be able to have as a human being. So that would be pretty cool. What are some of your favorite outfits to wear from your wardrobe? Ooh, this is a fun question. I've been really enjoying pairing a graphic t-shirt with a pleather or pleated skirt. I think it's really fun to mix casual with dressy, and I've also really enjoyed the idea of trying to mix something quote-unquote masculine with something quote-unquote feminine. Like for my friend's wedding, I decided I wanted to wear like dress pants and a blazer, but to, make this quote unquote masculine thing more feminine, I got like high-waisted baby pink dress pants and then paired it with like this black lingerie-esque corset thing underneath the black like cropped blazer, and then like wore heels. So yeah, I don't know. I think just kind of playing with a mix of ideas is really, really fun. And then also recently I treated myself to some thigh-high black boots, which just make me feel like the most badass bitch in the world when I wear them. So I've been enjoying those as well. What would your ideal life look like, either career-wise or in general? This is so cheesy, but like at this point, I just want to be happy. I'm not even sure what that looks like anymore, but that's what I want. I just want to be happy. What kinds of things make you throw your budget out the window? It depends on when you ask me. I feel like it definitely used to be clothes and makeup, but now I think it's concerts and live experiences. I've been to 4 concerts and a theater comedy show this year, and 2 more that I'm gonna go to later. Previously, I would only go to like 1 or 2 concerts within the year. But I think having experienced the pandemic, I'm really eager to save my money for live shows now because we just weren't able to do it. And so now I really don't want to take it for granted. And in case you were wondering, the concerts that I went to this year were Rina Sawayama, JoJo, 17, My Chemical Romance, and the Trixie and Katya live show. And then I'm planning to go to Blackpink and the 1975. Pretty stacked year. Did you watch Nope? If not, I highly recommend it. It seems like right up your alley. So, contrary to the fact I love Halloween and spooky vibes, which is why maybe you think I would love this movie, I actually cannot handle proper horror or thriller movies. I'm actually such a baby and I'm like super paranoid with that kind of stuff. For me, the type of spooky I like is Beetlejuice or Coraline, where it's not actually that scary, but just has that kind of Halloween vibe. So unfortunately, while I know Jordan Peele has gotten a lot of praise for his films, I just can't handle it. I'm too baby. If you could bring back any show to have one more season, which show would you pick? This is a really, really fun question. It's funny because so many of the shows that I was thinking of have either gotten another season or are going to have more seasons. So originally I was thinking Gilmore Girls. It's something that I've been rewatching right now, and it got canceled. And I really wanted Rory to end up with Jess. But then, yeah, it got revived by Netflix and I hated it. I was also thinking about Avatar: The Last Airbender purely for the fact that they never animated what happened to Zuko's mom, but now Avatar Studios is a thing and there is talks about how one of the animated projects will be Zuko related, so I'm curious to see if it will be about his mom or not. And then also Bleach. It never got an animated conclusion, but now the final season is coming out like 10 years later. The 1,000-year blood arc. The 1,000-year blood war arc. There we go. A lot of words. It's coming out next month, so I'm super hyped for it, and my high school self would be dying. Oh, and then actually, you know what? This is a real answer. I wish they would have made another season of Ouran High School Host Club. I'm still completely bewildered at the fact that it only had 1 season. It was so popular, so beloved. The manga went on for ages. And yeah, if they can bring back Fruits Baskets, I think they can definitely bring back Ouran High School Host Club. Did you watch Totally Spies? Currently rewatching on Amazon, and it's still a vibe. Yes, I loved Totally Spies. I was in high school when it was originally airing, so I definitely felt like I was technically too old for it, but I still loved it anyways. I adored those early 2000s Charlie's Angels movies, so it definitely felt like an extension of that. Plus, with the Y2K resurgence, the fashion and aesthetic of Totally Spies really suits the trends right now. What's your favorite Drag Race look? Have you seen any Ru girls perform in real life? So really tough to choose a favorite because there have been so many incredible looks on the runway. But the first one that comes to mind is Manila in All Stars 4 in that silver dress with like the white blonde wig. I know it's not really the most creative, and Manila herself has like done so many really fun looks, but I just remember being so stunned by how beautiful that look was. And yes, I've seen some Rue girls perform. Like I mentioned before, I recently saw Trixie and Katya, and I've also seen, I believe it was Monet Exchange and Ms. Cracker. They came for Pride a number of years ago. And then same with Brooklyn Heights, who is kind of from Toronto. And then also I had definitely seen Priyanka perform at the local drag bar here before she had won Canada's Drag Race. So that's been pretty fun to see like her stardom, I guess. Do you like Bo Burnham? I do, actually. I really enjoyed his recent special on Netflix, Inside. I also really enjoyed the outtakes as well. So much so that a few of his songs actually made it onto my Spotify Wrapped last year. His special really captured my feelings of turning 30 and just the general feelings of enduring the pandemic. And aside from the really smart commentary and humor, a lot of the songs are actually just bangers. They're like really catchy. Do you have a favorite song or a musician? They kind of fluctuate year to year. I think that the Spotify Wrapped is like a decent indicator of that. So the ones that I think my most listened to artists have been in the past number of years are probably Beyonce, Charli XCX, the 1975, Rina Sawayama, BTS, and 17. What is the most beautiful music video you've ever seen? The first one that comes to mind is Baby I'm Yours by Breakbot. The entire music video is animated with watercolor paintings. It's so impressive and absolutely gorgeous. Plus, it's a super fun song. I highly recommend checking it out. What are some of your recent K-pop comebacks? Well, I'm relatively still new, I think, to the grand scheme of the K-pop world, and I don't really like closely follow a lot of groups. So I guess technically, I mean, I'm kind of, sometimes I'm like, is this technically a comeback or no? Because would like 17's repackage of their recent album Sector 17, like does that count as a comeback with the song World? I don't know if that counts as a comeback. And then I guess like previous to that would have been Stray Kids did like a mini Japanese comeback with Circus, right? I don't know. The K-pop pipeline is wild and confusing, but also honestly very impressive because they are pumping out content like crazy. And when I say content, that sounds really diminishing because it's like full-blown productions and music videos and live performances and stuff. So yeah, it's impressive. Favorite underrated BTS song? Oh, I think it would have to be from their Dark and Wild album, Outro. Do you think it makes sense? I don't know. I think it's such a great like slow jam R&B track, and yeah, I'm surprised, like just according to the Spotify plays, it has one of kind of the lower counts. So yeah, that's my pick. I really enjoy that song. Thoughts on Vampire Jungkook? I lived. Some of you might know, kind of really had like a big vampire phase when I was in high school, aka really, really loved Twilight, The Vampire Diaries, Vampire Night. Like, I was just obsessed with vampires, and to this day I still consume vampire content. And so yeah, when I saw those pictures of Jungkook as a vampire, like the whole concept or whatever, I was like, wow, these are really my two interests coming together, aren't they? And I thought it was so hilarious and endearing that in the kind of behind the scenes video, when they were asking him about like a lot of his choices for, you know, why did you decide you wanted glitter on for this photo? And he was like, oh, because, you know, vampires, they glitter in the sunlight. And then, you know, when they asked him about the red contacts, he's like, oh, it's because when vampires have fed on human blood, their eyes are red. And then if they're yellow, that means they have only fed on animals or something. And I was just dying because it was so clear that his vampire knowledge seemed to only stem from the vampire lore from Twilight. And he was saying it so matter-of-factly. So anyway, I thought that was hilarious and adorable, and the photos looked great. I actually did a little bit of a portrait of him in that concept in one of my live streams because I was asking for requests from people and someone had suggested that. Maybe it was the same person who asked this question, I don't know. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Favorite 17 song? Oh, this is hard. This is pretty hard because I feel like it changes depending on when you ask me. Like if you asked me a few weeks ago, it probably would have been World. But I think right now I have to go with Rock With You. Or yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I love that song. It was kind of the song that really hooked me into 17, and I was so happy to see it live. They looked and sounded amazing, and I really, really love their kind of like rock live version of the song as well. It's a great song. I love it. If you could only watch one anime for the rest of your life, which one would it be? Avatar: The Last Airbender is being considered an anime here. I love that in brackets because clearly this person probably already knows my answer, or at least is like coaxing me into that answer. But it is true that if it was like literally any TV show, it would be Avatar: The Last Airbender. But if we, you know, wanted to get into technicalities and we were only picking an anime, I think it would be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Both series are ones that I really, really love and have already watched many times. And both series kind of have it all. I think that they both, you know, they have adventure and fantasy, humor, drama, great characters, interesting storyline, like really fascinating kind of world building and lore. So yeah, those are like two of my favorite shows of all time. So that's kind of, I think, what I would pick. But then I don't know, a part of me wants to be like efficient and pick like a really, really long series, since, you know, for the rest of my life. So like, I don't know, maybe an offbeat choice could be like One Piece, since I know that is a very long series that isn't even done yet, and I have literally never seen a single One Piece episode before. So I don't know, maybe that would be the right choice. Who knows? And then speaking of Avatar, the next question is Zutara or Katang. I've definitely tackled this question before, and I am very much a Zutara, which is kind of controversial, I think. But that was always the ship that I thought was going to happen. It's always been the ship that I wanted to happen. There's a theme here. A lot of the ships that I want just don't sail. And I think I might have talked about this in my previous Q&A video, but I was listening to this podcast, and one of the writers for Avatar had talked about how he had wanted this ship to happen, and there was a lot of arguments in the writer's room about it. The voice actor for Zuko had also thought that this ship was going to happen. So yeah, I really like a kind of spicier dynamic, I guess, when there's a little bit of a challenge, there's a little bit of tension, whereas Katara and Aang is like extremely wholesome, which is probably, you know, the vibe that most people want in their lives. But for me, like out of a TV show or something that I'm watching, I just find that like less interesting. Obviously, probably the healthier choice, maybe. I don't know. Although there isn't really anything wrong about being challenged in a relationship, as long as, you know, it's like, I guess, being challenged in a relationship in a way where you're both growing as people. And I think that's the way I see Katara and Zuko as a pairing. They like challenge each other to grow and move forward as people, as characters. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer for that. Finishing Demon Slayer, since you had recommended it to Inuyasha fans, what to watch next? I guess maybe Samurai Champloo, I think, would be another really great show to watch. That kind of is like a period piece set in Japan, but the fun thing about Samurai Champloo is it's got like a modern twist on it, because it's got a lot of inspiration from like hip hop and like street culture. And it's a really fun, like sweet and short series. And then for series that I've actually never seen before, but maybe you might like, because it's kind of, again, like in that realm with samurais, would be Gintama. I believe it's still going, or either it's still going or it's just very, very long. Again, I've never seen it, but maybe that may be worth checking out. And then another one that I've never seen but is quite popular, it's a little bit older as well, Ronin Kenshin? Is that what it's called? Hold on. Rurouni Kenshin. There we go. Which is another series that is kind of got a period samurai-esque vibe, I believe. How do you feel about the furry fandom? I mean, I feel like so long as something that you're enjoying doesn't harm anyone, then like feel free to enjoy it. I wouldn't consider myself a furry, but I will say I really enjoyed Beastars. That was a really, really interesting show, and I look forward to the next season. Is there an anime or TV show you wanted to see more merchandise for in stores? If yes, what kind of merchandise would you like to see? I can't really pinpoint a specific anime right now, but I will say overall, I think that I do find a lot of the times anime / TV show merchandise is often really tacky, or it's like too aggressive or like too in your face. And I guess part of the reason why is because a lot of the times people making this merchandise it's geared towards like really, really young people. But it's kind of funny because when you think about it, the people who are buying this kind of merchandise are like young adults. So why not make more merchandise that caters to that? I think Uniqlo is like almost there. Sometimes there's like tasteful stuff, and then sometimes it's as I've just described, where it's like kind of tacky. So as being someone who attends artist alleys, I think that has really helped sort of bridge that gap, because oftentimes fan-made merchandise is catering to that older, more tasteful audience. And so I want to personally recommend Steady Hands, which is like a clothing line who makes really like subtle and tasteful anime-inspired clothing. And I recently had gotten a Howl cardigan from them, and it's beautiful and I love it. And now that it's fall, I'm so excited to wear it. There's two questions here at the end that are very similar. One is, what anime character do you think you're the most similar to? And then the other one is, if you had to pick an anime character trope / type to describe yourself, what would it be? So I think for the anime character trope, I think for me, what comes to mind is the character who oftentimes sort of comes off as a little lazy or apathetic, but when they actually put their mind to it and really apply themselves, they can really come through. And I think the character that comes to mind for that is Usagi, aka Sailor Moon. She's a character who's kind of seen as a slacker, but when she really puts her mind to it, somehow things just sort of come together for her. And I kind of feel that way. I'm trying to think of other characters like that. I know that there are, but for some reason no one else is coming to mind. I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, that's like a pretty common trope, I think. Characters that, they're being told like, you have so much potential, you just need to put your mind to it or whatever. And they're just a little bit, they just want to chill. Maybe Shikamaru from Naruto. Although I don't relate to him in the sense that he's really smart, but I do relate to him in the sense that, yeah, he just wants to chill. He just wants to like lay back, have a soft, chill life. But he is kind of forced into hustling and making things happen because he needs to. So yeah, I guess I relate to him in that way. Not in being intelligent though. I don't relate to that. But yeah, that are all the questions. I unfortunately could not answer every single one of them, but I hope that you enjoyed hearing me ramble about all the various things. Apologies for the gurgling sounds. I'm very hungry, but I wanted to finish the voiceover. And thank you so much for watching my videos. Thank you so much to everyone who placed an order in my shop. Extra special thank you to all of my patrons. You are seriously like my driving force. You are allowing me to continue living this dream and keeping me motivated to continue doing this. So thank you so much. And yeah, all of the links to Patreon shop will be in the description down below. And feel free to comment on any given topic that I've mentioned in this video. I love chatting with all of you. And, like the video. I really never say that, but it really does help the channel. And I really would appreciate it. So yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.